Hey guys, Christy here with Little Roots Ranch, and today I wanted to talk about tips for growing carrots. I I absolutely love carrots, and the Irish actually always called carrots underground honey with how sweet the carrots can be, and I definitely agree, especially fall carrots. Once they get a little bit of frost on them, sugar is for carrots and a lot of plants kind of like a antifreeze for the plant, and so they metabolize that sugar, and that's what makes them so sweet. Now, of course, currently it's spring, and so I'll be planting for summer carrots. But when I plant in early summer for my fall carrots are gonna be sweeter than the carrots I'm planting now. But anyways, so yes, it is spring, and we're a little bit out from our last frost date, which is the perfect time to be planting carrots. And carrots actually can take light freezes really well. And so there isn't too much of a concern about that. Plus, they take a really long time to germinate. And this is actually probably the biggest tip that I have to share. And I think once you have the hang of growing carrots, they're really, really easy to grow. But if you don't follow a few important steps, then it's going to be hard to get quality carrots. So the first thing that you always want to keep in mind is that carrots are slow to germinate, and that carrots need a lot of water. And well, not a lot of water like soup, but the soil needs to always be moist. And so that means that if carrots take 2 to 3 weeks to germinate, potentially a little longer on the shoulder season, then you have to make sure that they're moist every single day. Like, the soil cannot dry. I haven't watered this in yet, and I've planted here, this was a bolero carrots. It's a cigar tip type carrot. I grow 3 different carrots here. The mokum, which are like the sweet spring carrots, the boleros, which is an every time carrot and also great for storage carrot, and then purple elite, which is a purple carrot. And then also parsnips, which isn't a carrot, but I categorize them the same. But anyways, and so in the spring, it's a little easier because then you have the rain to help us out and help keep that soil nice and moist. But during the summer, you need to be able to commit to bringing a hose out, morning and night, depending on how warm it is, or if you have carrots during that time, to make sure that you're keeping them nice and moist during the whole period. So that's usually where people mess up. Usually people will water when they sow the carrots and think that they're good. But if that topsoil crusts over, the carrot seedlings, even though they're a root vegetable, they're really not great at breaking through that. Some stuff, mostly weeds, can break through anything, like blackberry, for instance. Himalayan blackberry, I swear, will grow through a house. But carrots will not. Which brings me to other things about carrots. Carrots are really, really sensitive little guys. If they hit a rock, or if the soil isn't clean, then you're going to have a misshapen or stunted carrot. Still perfect for eating, of course, but may not have that marketability standpoint if you're selling carrots. But and if I've seen a few of you that have mentioned that your soil is really, really rocky. If that's the case, honestly, what I would recommend is doing a raised bed, or one of those large wide grow bags or whatever. You want at least 12 inches of soil, like either a compost or a sandy loam, something nice and soft, obviously not rocks, so that way the carrots can reach their full potential. Because even though when you see a carrot, the part that we eat is the blunt part of it or whatever, but at the end there's that taproot that actually keeps going down further than the actual carrot, and when you pull it out of the ground, that usually just breaks off. So you don't usually see that, but it's there. Another tip I wanted to cover is that a lot of people want to fertilize, and whenever I say fertilizer, I mean like a natural fertilizer, like chicken manure or any kind of manures, compost, but then also includes chemical fertilizers as well. Whatever fertilizer system that you are on, with carrots or any root vegetables for that matter, if you give them a lot of nitrogen, you're not going to be happy with the results. The way I always remember it is nitrogen grows green. And what that means is everything above the ground. So when we plant carrots, generally, or probably all the time, we're not looking for, oh, I want to grow just carrot greens. No, you want to grow the actual carrot, right? But if you're giving that a lot of nitrogen, there'll be a few things happening. One, you're going to be growing those greens, and those greens are at the expense of the taste and size of the root, which is providing all of the energy for the greens that you see above ground. Also, your carrots are more prone to forking and also growing like the side roots. It's like little like white hairs or whatever. I do always have them on my carrots just because I don't add fertilizer really, depending on what it is. Like I'll do where I do onions, like I ran, and corn and stuff like that. I put chicken manure mixed with litter that's composted over the year, and so that's already on the ground. But I don't like spray fertilizer, or a lot of times with like my low demand crops, like say carrots, lettuce, things like that, I don't use any fertilizer, natural of course, at all. But my ground just has a lot of it naturally. And so even though I don't add any fertilizer, I do slightly suffer the effects of having a high amount of nitrogen in the ground just in general. And so I get like the little side hairs. Again, nothing bad. It's just not as clean as a carrot that doesn't have. And of course, if you put high nitrogen on it, those hairs will just be more plentiful. So that's something to keep in mind as far as you don't want to fertilize your carrots. Now, what carrots do love are potassium and phosphorus. And of course, there's natural and unnatural ways to get that. But those will really help size up. And those are root crops in general, because they do have different needs, because, you know, most of the crops that we grow, you eat what's above ground, but of course not for carrots. Let's see, what else? Oh, when you're planting carrots, you want to plant them like a 1/4 inch deep. And I usually put them about 2 inches apart. I use pelleted seed. I've done a video on that before. But and so I space them. Sometimes I'll do 1 inch or whatever, depending. But if your carrots are too close together, then again, they're going to be competing for resources, and so they're going to be smaller and misshapen. So what you want to do is either plant further apart your seeds, but you might have holes, or you can come through and thin the carrots. And you want to have about 2 inches, sometimes 3 inches if you're growing like a larger, like storage type carrot. Matter of fact, if you want to comment down below with what kind of carrots you are growing, then that'll help me understand like what kind of carrots everyone is like more aiming for. Because there's different carrots that are like thicker and great for like compacted soils, like say a Danver carrot. And then there's also carrots that are really, really delicious, but they're very, very fragile, like the Mokum carrots. And then there's also like, for really bad soil, there's like the Parisian carrots that are like round. And then there's like the exhibition carrots that can be like, I don't know, what is it, like 3 feet long or something? I think those are exclusively grown in like sand or something like that. But there's a whole bunch of different kinds of carrots out there. But for the most part, you want like 2 to 3 inch spacing, and that's in any direction. If you have a lot of weed pressure, you want to space them even more so you can get in there and get the weeds out, because the carrots won't compete as well against the weeds for nutrients and things like that. And carrots are a little bit sensitive in that way. But I do a thick compost layer, and so I plant my carrots pretty close, and I don't have as many weed problems because like I said, I do the no-till method, and so it's more work up front, but then I don't spend my summer weeding, so it's kind of an exchange a little bit. But yeah. And then let's see, what else with carrots? Let me check. Oh, I was going to talk about succession planting. So as with anything, you can always do what feels best for you. And if you're a really busy person, sometimes it might be better to plant a large section of carrots and then just have those carrots in the ground and pull them as you need them. And if they lose a little bit of flavor over the time, or that when it heats up in the summer or whatever, they're still going to be better than grocery store carrots, and you grew them yourself and for your family or your home or whatever. And so that's one option. And if you're looking to like do succession planting, so that way you're always having fresh carrots and the peak of flavor, and that's what I do, of course. You want to plant carrots for all the way, probably like every 3-ish weeks, from early spring, like say now, and then all the way up until late summer. And your late summer ones will actually take a lot longer to mature, and those will be the ones that you overwinter. And realistically, I plant carrots about year round. I have to put them under cover, and I use glass for when I do December planted carrots, because those ones are the hardest to get to germinate, and it's really cold, but I have like a thick glass thing that I put over it, and it's just a smaller portion. But generally you're planting carrots from spring to the late summer. Let's see here. Oh, I've had a few people ask me about transplanting carrots, and first of all, if you haven't seen a carrot that was transplanted, it's hilarious. I've kind of thought about growing them just because I think they're so cute, but they look crazy. It's basically like an extra fat short carrot with like little stubs at the end, like I don't know, 2 to 4 like teeny little stubs, kind of like a cow udder, except compacted. And the reason for that is that just plants in general, but especially root vegetables and carrots, I mentioned earlier that long taproot that we don't always see, is that really develops before you see much going on, up top. And so you would have to be so quick to transplant it. And of course, it's almost impossible to keep the taproot straight. And so then at the end of the day, you can do whatever you like, and the carrots are always going to be edible and still be delicious. But if you're looking for, my recommendation, I guess, is not to transplant carrots and just to plant them directly. It's a little bit of a pain. You got to make sure you keep them wet. Remember, I said that earlier. It's really, really important. I think that's where most people go wrong. I talked about that. Let's see here. Talked about the weeds. Then I believe I said it, but when you're thinning your carrots, when they get about 4 inches tall, is when you want to go through and thin, because carrot seeds are like, I use the pelleted so that they're easier to see. But if you're using regular carrots, if you drop a couple, or it's hard to plant them out or whatever, and you end up with carrots that are too thick, you'll want to go through, and you can pull them, but a better way to do it is to just take scissors and just snip off the little, and that way you don't risk disturbing any of the other carrots or anything else. And you want to do that when like the greens are about like 4 inches high, or approximately that height. If you're planning for carrots for your family or for yourself, or for a bunny or something, generally 1 foot of a row, so just a single row of carrots, will yield about a pound of carrots. Now obviously it depends on what type you're growing, and assuming the carrots make it and all that stuff. But on average, every foot will be about a pound of carrots. So that way you can like sort of plan that. I've heard numbers of like plant 8 feet for every family member and stuff like that. I feel like I'm a carrot monster. And so I definitely love carrots. Oh, interesting carrot fact. Carrots were the first vegetable commercially canned. Obviously it was a long time ago, but the very first vegetable that was commercially canned. I have not canned carrots, mostly because I eat them all, or I just store them. Also, I just don't want to peel all of them. All the nutrients are always in the skin, and I don't want to get rid of the skin. Let's see. Oh, this is an important thing. So there are many pests and fungus that can affect carrots. And I know there's like carrot rust, which I haven't had, so I can't speak to that. But I do know which pest I have problems with, and that is the wireworm. And wire worms are ridiculous. Oh, they drive me so crazy, especially when land is converted like raw, like grass, into a garden. The wire worms are just have a heavier presence, and they love everything, especially root items. Radishes, turnips, carrots. They just love, I've heard of other people say they go after their lettuce. I haven't had problems with my lettuce with it. It's all my root crops. And so there's a few things that you can do to protect your roots and or carrots from the wire worm. And so the first one is using beneficial nematodes. And so I actually already applied that. I meant to get a video, but I had to hurry up and do it before the rain because I wanted it to like drench in, and I just didn't get around to it. And it was my first time using them, like from this supplier. And I wanted to make sure like I did everything right, so I didn't bring the camera along. But basically, they're like microscopic ringworms in essence. But what they do is they do not hurt like bees, they don't hurt earthworms, anything like that. They almost they exclusively target, it's like wire worms. I think, what's the other things? I don't remember. It's a few other pests that I don't have, which is why I don't remember it. But the brand, I got it from, what is it, Arbica, Arbico, Arbico Organics, the SC version of them, specifically for the wire worms. And so I use that to help lower the population, as well as just picking them out when I see them. Another option that you can do, and this one sounds way more fun, and I think, you know, a lot of people use these as well. I personally haven't, though I think I might try it this year, is like every 3 to 10 feet, if you dig like a little hole, like say like 2 to 4 inches deep, and you can either cut up potato or half a potato or whatever, or if you put a combination of like beans, peas, carrots, or it can be an individual kind, whatever. They love all three of those. And you can pre-soak them in some water to have germination a little faster. And these, you're not gonna let these grow to full size or whatever, but you're just gonna put them in there. And while they're germinating, the wire worms won't be able to resist them. And so use like a little marker so you know where it's at, and then dig it up, and then catch all the wire worms, and then feed them to your chickens or whatever you do with them. But that'll get them to leave your carrots or your, anything alone, because they'll prefer either the potato or the germinating corn, peas, beans combination. And so yeah, so those are my main tips as far as for growing carrots. For harvest, it's pretty easy. Generally, at a minimum, you want the carrots to be, because carrots are edible at all sizes, right? Even if you take a teeny tiny, it's just a little, like just small thing, the size of like, I don't know, 10 hairs or whatever. It's still edible, it's just gonna be really small, and it's better to wait and enjoy more carrot. And then even if you just let them keep growing and they get really huge, they might get like a firm core in the middle and lose like the eating quality a little bit, but they're not bad. You know, it's just not the ideal size for the carrot. What is ideal, generally, obviously there are different types of carrots, is when it's about like the size of your thumb. At least you want at least a 1/2 inch in diameter, but about the size of your thumb. And you want to kind of grab it and just loosen it up a little bit in its soil and try and pick it up. You might have to dig down a little bit, and then you can enjoy carrots, because I love carrots. Carrots are like one of my favorite things ever. I love that I can eat them fresh. I can put them in stuff. I love roasted carrots. And yeah, so just as a really quick recap, just of the main thing is, remember, carrot seeds take a really long time to germinate, like 2 to 3 weeks, and they need to be moist at all times. If you can get past that, you'll be able to enjoy amazing carrots. Thank you for watching, and happy gardening. Bye.